I guess most of you have already joined in, so we'll be starting with the webinar. A very warm welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mahima Lal, and I'm the part of engagement marketing team at Hero Wire, and I'm your host for today. So today we are presenting a webinar on the topic Decoding Louis Vuitton's winning marketing strategy with you. So before we switch on to the webinar and go deeper into the topic, I would like to introduce you to this platform, which is Hero Wired. So Hero Wired is a premium learn tech company, which is the part of the larger Hero Group, where we are on a mission to not only reimagine the way people learn, but also to build a better and a brighter future. So we are here to equip our learners with the right skill set, the right knowledge, and the expertise that they need in order to find success. So as you all can see on your screens, today's webinar is on the topic Decoding Louis Vuitton's winning strategy. And in order to present this topic with us, Varun Gupta. So a little about Varun. So he is a management expert with over 15 plus years of experience. He has executed business transformation programs across clients, across diverse domains. His strengths lie in building strong client relationships and working alongside teams to solve complex business problems. He's instrumental in driving strategy and growth across B2C, B2B, and D2C. He's currently heading the D2C business head at Hero Wired. A warm welcome, Varun. With Varun, we also have Ronak Joshi with us. Ronak is currently working as Associate Director, B2C Sales at Hero Wire. He has previously worked with Upgrad and he has used strategic initiatives in setting up new verticals in EdTech segments for upskilling and reskilling working professionals. He has led large teams and currently he's managing the sales department and the training function at Hero Wire. A very warm welcome, Ronak. So before we move on to the webinar, a quick housekeeping rules. If you have any questions or queries during this webinar, you have a chat box and a Q&A section open for you all. So if in case there is any query, please feel free to put down your questions in the chat box or into the Q&A section. We have Varun and Ronak who will be more than happy to answer all your queries. So without any further ado, over to you, Varun. You can start sharing your screen.
Thank you, Mahima. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Varun.
Thank you so much for the introduction and welcome to all the people who have joined the webinar. I think just a bit on the structure of how we plan to run it is that between me and Ronak, we'll split it into maybe I'll spend around 50 to 60 minutes on, the topic decoding the, strategy for Louis Vuitton. And then we will, as a company in the management domain, as far as strategy is concerned, we have an offering of a program from INSEAD where it's called SMBE. So Ronak will, take out some 20-25 minutes to go through the program details and, what are some of the salient features. So I would request if, people are interested in that particular program, they can stay over. For people who are, just here to listen to the strategy workshop, they can drop off. So let me just give me 1 second and project my screen, Mahima. Yeah, is my screen visible, Mahima?
Yes, Varun, I can see your screen.
Sure. So, let us start. Again, a very warm welcome to all the people who have joined the webinar. Today, what we will do is that, many of you would have heard or read about the name of Bernard Arnault, and it has been a hot topic for the last 2 or 3 weeks, not even 2 or 3 weeks, maybe last 2 or 3 months. And it's a matter of, surprise to a lot of people, and still it would be that the richest person today in the world is not on the likes of Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or a Mukesh Ambani, but it is Bernard. Now, that is quite interesting. That is quite intriguing. That while we know a lot of companies like Tesla, we know Amazon, we keep hearing about Ambani's and the Adanis making it to the Forbes list. Very few of us on an ongoing basis it takes the attention of hearing about somebody called Bernard Arnault. So we thought it's a right time to deep dive into 2 things. And the way I'll structure the session, I will focus on 2 things. One is about the LVMH group as a whole of what it has done, what has been the strategy, and then deep dive into Louis Vuitton as a brand and what has been the winning strategy from a marketing and brand perspective. And what has enabled Louis Vuitton over the last more than 160 years. So the brand was originally founded in 1854. It dates back to 1854. So how the brand has been built up over a period of time, And if you look at last 20 or 30 years, we see that consistently, if you take, say, 2006, 2012, it was rated as the most valuable brand, luxury brand. Of course, there are brands like a Coca-Cola or an Apple. But if you talk about luxury brands, it has been voted as the top luxury brand year on year for 10 years, right? So there is something which is being done in a very exceptional manner, and there is a lot of merit in terms of getting to know the background and deep dive into some of the reasons of what are some of the key enablers for this. So let's start with a basic background and some of the origins. And there are, I understand, very different background people. So let me start from the origin. Now, when we talk about Louis Vuitton as a brand, it is a subset of a company called LVMH, and we will go into the details of what the company is all about. It's essentially a conglomerate, a luxury conglomerate, which is made out of 70 or 75 luxury brands. So if you talk about Louis Vuitton, if you talk about a Christian Dior, if you talk about Tag Heuer, if you talk about Moet and Hennessy, if you talk about, and it straddles not only in a particular category like maybe a retail or an apparel, it actually straddles across multiple categories. And it is phenomenal to note that this entire uh, behemoth, which has been created by Bernard, has been created over the last 30 years, where he saw a great opportunity in 1984, and just started acquiring companies. The way the business have been built is on the back of a very, very strong acquisition strategy. So if somebody wants to deep dive into how acquisitions work, how synergies work, and we will spend some time on that also as part of this particular session. It is very interesting to note that over a period of time, how did he bring together so many brands to create this large engine, right? So, founded in 1987, it was a merger between Louis Vuitton and Moet and Chandon and Hennessy. Many of you would, recognize the name. It is one of the leading global brands when you talk about champagne and cognac. These were bought together from two very different areas. Louis Vuitton, if you talk about primarily, lifestyle product, covers accessories like bags, trunks, belts, wallets, etc. And then on the other side, it's alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks. It's headquartered in Paris and led by Bernard. Now, just to get a sense of how the group is and how it is structured, the entire group, when we talk about LVMH, which came into existence in 1987, the revenue is a bit dated, which shows you the 54 billion number, but this is for 2019. However, if you talk about the revenue today in 2022 post COVID, the revenue has reached the like of around 80 billion euros. That is the kind of growth the company has seen, and this revenue comes at a more than 30% margin, which is phenomenal, and that is why the wealth creation and the net worth, and he's counted as one of the richest persons globally. Now, if you look at the group, it is divided into 5 or 6 key categories. On the left hand side, you will see I'm referring to the pie chart. On the left hand side, you will see fashion and leather, which accounts for nearly 40% of the revenue, out of which Louis Vuitton itself is around 12.4 billion. If I talk about 2022, this revenue has for the first time touched a level of 20 billion euros as an independent brand and entity, which is the highest ever, right? So while a lot of companies post COVID after 2020 saw a contraction in revenue, saw a contraction, in sales. On the flip side, the growth and the rise in profitability for somebody like a Louis Vuitton has been, historic. It faced a dip in 2020, but after 6 months, it has seen the historic ever growth, right? So if you talk about the total group, so there is fashion and leather with Louis Vuitton. There is selective retailing, which, and some of the other businesses which are there, like for example, the likes of Sephora. Sephora, just to give you a perspective, is a multi-brand outlet for cosmetics, which is a chain globally. Many of the malls in India today have Sephora as an outlet. There are other parts of the business. So there is perfume and cosmetics with something like a Christian Dior, and the smaller bubbles which you see apart from the pie chart are basically the standout brands which are accounting for bulk of the revenue. So if you talk about perfume and cosmetics, it would be Christian Dior. If you talk about watches and jewelry, it would be Bulgari. If you talk about wine and spirits, it would be something like an Hennessy. And if you talk about fashion and leather, it would be Louis Vuitton. So while this came into being, and we'll talk about some of the background of, how it came into existence, this entire group. It is on the back of acquisitions of 30 different brands, more than 30 different brands over the last 20 to 25 years. Acquisitions done at the right time, at the right valuation, and very, very strategic. In the second half of the session, I'll just touch base on, certain examples where you'll get a very clear idea of, how it worked for the group. So with that, Mahima, what I'll also do is that I see that there are already some existing questions, and in the chat bot, in the
Yes,
chat, there are
yes.
some comments. While I go with the flow, we will take, periodic breaks, and then we can go through some of the questions.
Sure, why not?
Now, now, if you talk about the group, while we have talked at an overall level, it gives you a deep dive into what are some of the key brands as part of the group. So on the left hand side, if you talk about watches and jewelry, while there is a Bulgari, there's a Hublot, there's a Tagore. In perfume and cosmetics, there's a Christian Dior. In wine and spirits, we have already talked about, Moet and Chandon, the Dom Perignon. In fashion and leather, there is a Louis Vuitton, which accounts bulk of the revenue, but there are also brands like, Dior, like Kenzo, which are placed there. And then there are some other parts of the business, right? So just to, give uh, you a bit of a background of how this entire luxury conglomerate came into existence. So Bernard, in around 1984, maybe he was 35 years old, had a family business, had a construction business where he was already working for around 15 years. Had no background in luxury retail, luxury lifestyle, etc. He saw an opportunity where Christian Dior and the parent company was Bussos Saint Frere, where he got a good valuation and he saw an opportunity and decided to put in the money and acquire. So he borrowed around 15 million from the family, of course, coming from a very, rich and affluent family. And another 45 million was raised by a couple of other funds, right? So he got this into picture and then just continued year on year getting in more and more brands. So when you talk about Louis Vuitton around 1989, if you talk about merger with the drinks and beverage, the likes of Moet and Chandon, etc., that came in 1987. So over a period of time, all these brands came together, and acquisitions were done to result into LVMH. Now, what I wanted to do that while we will again touch base in the acquisition strategy, but focus for some time in terms of how Louis Vuitton as a brand, LV as a brand, developed, and what was the history, and today basically how does it operate. I think in terms of the highlights we have already covered most of the points. So LVMH 75 brands, 80 billion in revenue, 30% plus profit margins. A very interesting thing to note that while we talk about a revenue of nearly 80 billion euros, there are 19,000 employees. So if you start calculating the revenue per employee, it comes to more than $500,000 per employee, which would be highest for any company globally across any particular sector. If you talk about his own net worth, you would have read that, of course, it keeps fluctuating because of the share price and the market corrections, etc. But as of today, I think it is at around $237 billion, and which is greater than 200 and 180, which is for Elon Musk and some of the other people like Jeff Bezos, who are on number 2 and number 3. While there is a shift in terms of some of the temporary rankings, etc., but he has established himself clearly at the top of the table if you talk about his position. So just rolling back and zooming out of the group, when we talk about Louis Vuitton in terms of the background and the history, I think very interesting to note. 1854 it started when the person named Louis Vuitton. So the brand actually is named after the person. 16-year-old, he actually moved to Paris, and the story goes like this: that when he went there, Donna Maria, who was a French empress and wife of Napoleon III, he started making trunks for her. That is the time when he got a lot of prominence. The key focus of the product was impeccable quality, the kind of material used, the kind of handcrafted leather which was put into the product, and that was the genesis of the brand itself. So it dates back to 1854, generation
Varun,
after.
sorry to interrupt you. Your voice is breaking.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, you can just come closer to the system, maybe.
Sure. Is it
Yeah,
better?
yeah, it's better now.
Understood. Thanks for the feedback. So I hope I'm audible now. Mahima, if at any point of time it is still not audible, please let me know. So,
Sure.
talking about the brand itself, it has a rich legacy. It has a rich history. If you start from 1854, nearly 170 years of history for the brand, based out of Paris. Genesis of a single guy who migrated to Paris and started working for the Empress Napoleon III's wife, and started making one single product, which was the trunk. Even today, if you go to a Louis Vuitton store, you'll find, while people would have stopped using trunks as a product, but it's a symbolic and signature product because that is where the origins are traced back to. Right, so that was the start of the brand, and over a period of time, a lot of different categories, a lot of different products got added. And let me just give you a perspective on that. So today, as the brand stands, while of course a lot of people would be aware of the signature bags, but there are accessories like belts, wallets, phone covers, perfumes, eyewear, apparel, and on the left hand side, right at the bottom, you'll see the signature trunk, which is associated with the brand. So this is where things originated, and this is where things started. But yeah, today, over a period of time, the product offering has evolved, and a lot of different categories have got added, right? So now let me one. So, let's start with the product itself. So, what is so different about the product when it comes to a Louis Vuitton? If you start researching about the brand itself, and if you start talking to certain people, I think they are very clear in their narrative that they don't sell a product, they sell a lifestyle. And that is clear in terms of the brand messaging, that is clear in terms of the communication, that is clear in terms of the brand identity. Many of us would be very familiar with the LV monogram, which was initially identified as a brand. But the very interesting and the very important part to notice that while over generations different products have evolved, different product lines have come in, but the monogram, the LV monogram, and the logo remains the same. You would have seen many brands that over a period of time they adapt, they make certain changes, etc., etc. But for Louis Vuitton, the initial LV monogram, which was developed right at the beginning, stays there, right? Also, I think it is interesting to note that we can always have questions that while why would a bag, why would a single bag sell for a lakh, 2 lakh, 2.5 lakhs, and a lot of people won't see any value. I think this is how luxury brands are positioned. So each of the bag is handmade, while over a period of time many of the brands have moved towards machine production, which is far more efficient, which is far more which is faster, which is cheaper. However, even today every single Louis Vuitton product is handmade. And just for an example, an LV trunk can take up to 60 hours, or a suit can take up to 15 hours, which in a machine would have been made maybe in a couple of hours or 3 hours. But that is not what the company focuses on. They make sure that everything is handmade even today. Every product, utilizes the damier and monogram canvas material which has been used for the last 150 years for the brand. All products exhibit LV initials, making them instantly recognizable. And today, if you look at within the fashion industry and outside the fashion industry, the brand is promoted by some of the leading names. So what is the takeaway from a marketing strategy perspective? What is the takeaway? I think some very interesting points to note is that while the brand has evolved in terms of the product offerings, while the brand has expanded, different line of products, but the fundamental, core of every product being of very high quality, being handmade, the LV logo being central to it has been maintained over a period of time. I don't know if many of you know, while it's a luxury product, LV is known that for a particular collection in a season, and this is actually true, that if the products are not consumed or not sold, they are burnt. So they do not want products to go back because then they enter back into the supply chain and there's a lot of counterfeit products which are there. So they don't want to do that. They want to maintain the exclusivity, and we will talk about it in a later slide. But in terms of the product, so this is the core offering. The product is the key focus. However, with the product comes a great challenge. If you look at state of the fake or counterfeit products globally, and this is just some representative data in 2019, 50% of them globally is accounted by Louis Vuitton, while there are some of the other brands like Chanel, Gucci, and all other combined are less than 50%. Imagine one brand globally being accounted for 51% of all counterfeit products which are being created in this particular category. That just is a reflection of how the brand, how aspirational the brand is and how many people want to get to the brand. But at the same time, while the brand wants to maintain exclusivity, it lays a lot of value on its intellectual property. So while we talk about tech companies having patents, having multiple patents, it is noted that they have more than 150 patents, and it spends 18 $20 million annually just for the protection of the brand. There was a very large exercise which happened in 2017, and this I've just put so that people get the sense of how and to what length the brand goes to protect and safeguard the IP property, right? So they initiated around 40,000 anti-counterfeiting procedures at a global level, criminal, civil, custom procedures, etc., which actually led to a break in the supply chain of these counterfeit products. And then, of course, there are some details about these were being sold through fake websites, they were being auctioned, etc., etc. However, what the company was able to decisively do by investing so much into into the genuineness of the product, filing the patents, etc., they were able to get a control. Of course, it's not finished. If you go to any country, you'll find counterfeit bags being produced, being sold. But the thing to note from a strategic perspective is that while the company's focus is the product, or the core offering is the lifestyle product, how they supplement and complement it in terms of going to a particular length in terms of defending the IP, right? So this is very, very characteristic if you compare it to some of the global brands or some of the global fashion brands, where companies would not put this kind of an effort. We've talked about it, but I'll touch upon it again, that something which is central to the product is exclusivity. So if you look at Louis Vuitton, there are only two channels through which the product is sold. And while we talk about a route to market strategy of different brands, and now while traditionally there were only two or three channels, people could have sold through your GTM, your traditional channel, your retail stores, which be franchisees, your own stores, and many of you would have heard about models like Coco, company-owned, company-operated outlet, then company-owned, franchisee-operated outlet, etc., etc. What they have consistently done is that they do not have any franchisee model in any of the countries where they operate. So while they have 500 stores in 50 countries, what they do is that there are only two channels through which the product is sold. One is their own website, and we will talk about it, and we will touch on it, at a later point of time. Uh, there are symbolic stores which are seen in any big city. Taking an example of India, while you talk about Paris, it's on streets like Champs Elysees. It's on the Oxford Street in London. It's on the Orchard Street in Singapore. Even if you talk about India, a Palladium, mall in Bombay, Emporio Mall in Delhi. So the location is chosen in a very, very prime manner, which is associated with the positioning of the brand. Now, another thing in terms of maintaining the exclusivity, what the brand does very, very consistently, and we'll see some examples in the slides later on, that most of the products, while there are some products which are evergreen, which are offered over a period of time, however, many of the products are limited series and they are launched for limited amount of time, and not everybody can have it. So the objective or the idea is to launch products which are there for limited amount of time. And the essential fundamental anchor what the company uses is a FOMO. So the most of you would have heard about it, fear of missing out. The entire ethos is that if you do not buy now, you'll not get it anyhow. Just an example, and we'll see it later, so I'll skip to that. So we talk about two things from an exclusivity perspective: limited series and a very, very highly controlled channel. I don't know if many of you would have visited different stores across countries, but one thing which remains very consistent across Louis Vuitton stores is that they are made in a manner where an entire building is taken, artworks are there, customization and personalization areas are created separately, and the company invests a lot to create an experience inside the store where they can directly connect to the customer, create the experience. In fact, people who are selling the products are coached on a very, very consistent basis to make sure that they are aligned to what the company ethos and the communication is. So moving on, I think what also they have done, and which also shows a degree of flexibility, is that while there are standard ways of personalizing and customizing the product. So, for example, if you want to get a shoe done, you can order a customized shoe where it is made as per your size. But what the company realizes that over the last 15 years, at if I rewind by 20 years, the target segment for Louis Vuitton was an age group of around 30 to 60 and minimum income of around 150,000 USD. But what has changed significantly now is that as we move on, as the Generation Z and the millennials step in, they are also willing to spend more and more in terms of creating that positioning and creating that differentiation. So if you go to the store and if you go to the website, you see I would say a significant shift in terms of the kind of customization you can do on the store. And the slides talks about the option of online customization, where it's very different to the made to place order. So I think we have already talked about it, but it's very important to highlight that critical anchor to the entire strategy is the channel. So just a snapshot of a Louis Vuitton store on the left, but only two channels: own retail outlets, no franchisees, and the official website. Now, something which is very interesting to notice that most of the luxury brands over the last 10 or 15 years, as e-commerce have come in, have struggled with with a perplex problem where whether to go on e-commerce or not to go on e-commerce. And let us understand that for any luxury brand, something which is very, very important is customer experience. Because the moment you go on e-commerce, your ability to control the experience, your ability to control the discounting, your ability to, because the logistics is managed by, say, somebody like an Amazon or a Flipkart, your entire customer experience can get impacted based on the platform on which you are buying. Louis Vuitton has never moved on to, say, an e-commerce channel like an Amazon. And while there were certain news a couple of years back they might do it, it never happened. Despite of, if you look at the stats for an Amazon, for every e-commerce dollar spent in the US, 40 cents is accounted by Amazon. So 40% of all sales coming through Amazon as a channel. If you look at the target TG, 70% of them have a Prime membership, but it's a conscious call by the company not to go into that particular direction and not to go on the e-commerce platform, right? So if you look at stores, we have talked about it, most prime location, limited exclusive distribution channel, ability to control the experience and the price. And of course, one more lever which is gives to the brand is to reduce the intermediate cost which is involved, where you talk about multiple channels. Somebody like an Amazon might take a 15% to 20 to 30% cut based on the strength of the brand. So effectively follows this policy very religiously. I think the second channel through which they sell is brand.com. Very interesting to note that if you today open the global website for Louis Vuitton and you go to the website, you'll not find any product offering. You'll not find any cluttered page which shows you what product you want to choose, what category you want to choose, etc. So if you open the page now, this is what you'll see, and you'll see that it's a Cruise 2024 show where you get a window to basically watch the show. What it does and what gels with the strategy very well is that Louis Vuitton on a very consistent basis creates bespoke events where these limited or exclusive offerings are launched, and the objective is that you create an experience, you invite models, you invite people from a business background, you invite people basically who are affluent and rich. You create that kind of an experience, and then you basically use it to double dive even in terms of creating your branding. So if you talk about even social media, while the channels are evolving, I think Louis Vuitton uses social media in a very, very different manner compared to some of the other brands. So you will see that in terms of the followers, and I've just put some numbers, more than 51 million followers on Instagram, nearly 10 million followers on Twitter, uh, website receiving more than 20 million visits with an average duration of around 4 minutes of engagement is a phenomenal number. Most of you would be working with different brands would recognize that these are the kind of stats which are just completely out of the whack. However, they instead of upselling, cross-selling the product, I think the razor sharp focus is to create that kind of an experience given window in terms of what the offering is. It's very different in the way the social media handles are operated. So just to a quick recap, uh, we have talked about the product, handcrafted, uh, high quality, making sure that you are delivering the best quality, the best material, handcrafted. Then when we come to maintaining exclusivity, it is made sure that there are limited edition series. There are launches where people can buy online. There are only two channels, nearly 500 stores and a brand.com. I was reading an article which talked about that today. If you look at the salience of the sales, it's around hovering around 7 to 8%. What happens through their own website and what happens through the exclusive stores. I'll just take a quick pause. I think there are a couple of questions also. So I think there is one question where I think Darshan is asking whether 4 minutes of engagement is enough to convert for a luxury brand. So Darshan, the idea for a Louis Vuitton is actually not, the objective is not even to convert on the website. I think the objective is just engage with the user and give them the experience and provide them the hook. Because today, if you see from a strategic perspective, while somebody might come at the website, the entire shopping experience is omni-channel. So while the customer journey would start at a website for most of the people, they might check, but very few of them would actually buy a $5,000 bag just from the website. So that is not the objective. The objective is to give a window to the prospect of how the brand is, giving them the experience. And even if you look at the overall base of the visits, which is 20 million, if I convert it into crores, is nearly 2 crore number what we are talking about. On that base, having an average duration of 4 minutes is a very, very strong number. If you look at a lot of the other brands where the traffic itself would be 0.1 million, 0.2 million, or 1 million, they achieve these kind of numbers from 5 to 6 minutes. But to answer your question, I think it's a omni-channel journey. It's only a part of the journey for the customer, and it eventually concludes at the exclusive store. So that is why the salience from the brand.com website is limited to around 6 to 7 or maybe 5 to 6%, and that is fine because the brand itself is seeing phenomenal growth, right? Okay, so I think that answers your question. I think another question is, would you say in electronic market, Apple did try to position as an expensive and exclusive brand? I think, see, if you talk about Apple, while it is a exclusive product, while it is a premium product, but if you still jump the line and say, while is it a luxury or it is a very, very high quality product at a relatively higher price, it would still not be counted as a luxury product, right? Because with luxury will come exclusivity, etc. While in India, and also to answer your question, it's also a function of geographies, right? Apple is just started expanding in India. If you look at the volumes, it's not even 1% of the global sales of what happens globally. If you pick up countries like a Singapore, a Southeast Asia, a US, a China, Apple is a standard product. It's not a luxury product. In India, because of the price point, it is just entering the market. While there is a higher price point, it is positioned as something which is more expensive. Of course, from a quality perspective, it is high end, but I would still not bucket it into a luxury segment like something like a Louis Vuitton, right? Now, another question is brand.com. So Amir, just a small technical. When I said brand.com, brand.com refers to any website which the brand owns. So basically, if you search for Louis Vuitton, you will go on to that, right? Because there are two options strategically from a route to market perspective. You can either be on an e-commerce website or you can be on your own website. When I said brand.com, it means that the company's own website is referred to as brand.com. So I think I'll move on from there. Mahima, are there any other questions? I think there are, but what we can do is then we can club 2 or 3 more questions. We take another break and then answer those. Would that be okay?
Yes, Varun. I guess we have some questions in the Q&A section, but we can go ahead right now and we can take them later.
Sure. So let me move on. I think pricing. So, if we talk about marketing, we have talked about the product, we have talked about the placement. Let's talk about pricing, and then we'll come to promotion. That how do they run their campaigns? What do they do in terms of advertising? And what do they do in terms of the collaborations, which is another very strategic part, right? So if you talk about a Louis Vuitton product, now if there are people in the group who travel to say a Europe or a US, the concept there is that, first of all, if you do a benchmarking of a Louis Vuitton product in India or in US or in Europe, the prices when you convert the euros, the prices when you convert the dollars are largely in the same range. So the company puts in a lot of effort to make sure that the product is not super expensive or relatively more expensive in one particular geography. That is the first aspect. Secondly, there is no discount ever on a Louis Vuitton product. There are no factory outlets. So when I talked about Europe, a lot of people would go to factory outlets which are typically outside the city. Brands like even a Dior or a Burberry or some of the other luxury brands would have a factory outlet where there would be a discount or a scheme of 20%, 25% based on what the offer is, right? But a Louis Vuitton product never has a discount. If you talk about what is the strategy through which the company does the pricing, it's completely value based. When I say value based, there are different kinds of strategies which company follow. For example, a brand might say that a car manufacturer or a Maruti might say that our product, the cost input is X, and from different dimensions and different anchors, and then the profit is loaded and the prices is divided. So for example, you'll start from the commodity, you'll say this much of steel, this much of components, this much of uh, pricing inputs, and then margins, etc., etc. For typically FMCG products like fast moving products, I can take very simple examples, say like a toothpaste, or you'll spend X on advertising, Y on packaging, Z on product, etc. That is how the pricing is determined. While for a Louis Vuitton, it is very clear that it is the customer propensity to pay. So while there is a bag, the input cost, the logistics cost, the labor cost, etc., plays no role at all, right? So it is about what is the willingness to pay. So you talk about bags where average cost would be around, say, minimum $2,000. If you start talking about that, that is the customer willingness to pay, and that is how the pricing is done. Just taken a very simple example of an urban satchel. It will be very interesting if anybody of you can search on this and just go to images on Google. It's actually to highlight the environmental issue. They launched a limited edition bag which is just made out of trash. So if you look at the bag, you can see a plastic bottle, you can see a can, you can see trash which is there, but priced at $150,000, because despite of the acquired appearance, it's a smash hit among celebrities. And this is how I wanted to highlight luxury brands work. They do not, the pricing is not based on the fundamental drivers, but it is about what the customer is willing to pay, right? So moving on, I think if we move on from pricing, I wanted to just throw some light in terms of 2 or 3 different dimensions. So if you look at promotion for a Louis Vuitton, I think they do a lot of print. When we talk about print, they absolutely do not do anything on TV. They spend a lot on being at the right high-end magazines, high quality print, high quality imagery. They do a lot of there are 2 or 3 buckets in terms of how they advertise. One would be collaboration, where they would bring in the right artist and designer, and this dovetails into how the product is also made, because this helps them to basically keep on innovating the product. So for example, while we were talking about a Gen Z or a millennial who wants to buy the product, they get in a lot of artists and designers who are trending, who have a lot of followers on social media, right? And then amplify their products. I don't know if any of you would have seen the product by Takashi Murakami, which is the first name on the slide. Basically, a Japanese lady where the design itself is all polka dots. This is the current team, and you'll see it at a lot of Louis Vuitton stores. So they would often bring these designers. What it helps to do is that revamp the designs, link to the new generation, and also just a small example of Virgil Abloh, which is given on the left hand side, right? So how they make these contracts, so it helps them to get the right talent, people who are trending, people who have a lot of social media presence, and they actually become part of the product team where they work as artists and designers. That is one lever, one lever which they use. I think also in terms of the campaigns which they curate over a period of time, and I've just taken 2 3 examples so that you get a flavor of what is done and how it is done. Just wanted to give you an insight. So one of the campaigns which you see on the current slide is a Make a Promise collaboration, which was done in 2016 in collaboration with UNICEF, where you see these bracelets where around $200 or some kind of amount was donated to UNICEF. Now, if you think about it, just look at the number. Nearly $10 million donated through this campaign itself. If you look at luxury brands, you would it's a rare thing to see that they are going and curating these kind of campaigns for positioning. That is one. So out of the box campaign. Let's look at another one. I think we we had a look at it before also in one of the slides. On the left hand side, you'll see this is the cruise show in 2017. So what it will do is that it will the campaign is very clearly in terms of a theme. There would be limited editions, limited series. Uh, the sales happen through online platform for limited time. Create the FOMO. Do it for a very small period of time. Do it at a very exorbitantly priced collection. And if you start researching about it, the entire collection ran out in a matter of days post this particular show. The way you are doing and you are running your campaigns is very innovative. You'll find different locations, like for example in this the cruise show, and I was showing you the website for 2024 which talked about another show. Let me take another example, right? So this is the spring summer 2021, and what they did was that they actually chose the street and got a lot of different people from diverse backgrounds on the runway. So different kind of backgrounds, and not even your usual models. They actually picked people who were there as a first time participants, invited footballers, skateboarders, photographers, people from diverse field who are at the helm of in terms of their positioning, and then curate this entire experience and then launch the collection. I think it's very unique if you start looking at the brands of how it is done in a consistent way year on year. That in itself to execute the strategy is very unique, and how the brand is able to maintain the position in a very consistent manner. Last but not the least, in terms of sponsorships, while there are multiple sponsorships they will do, if you start looking at the brand ambassadors, etc., you'll see that somebody like a Roger Federer, somebody like Andre Agassi, somebody like you'll Angelina Jolie, you'll see that these are people who are in their respective fields are on top notch, are perceived from a luxury perspective, they are right up there. So even if you look at a sponsorship event, and this is the fourth point on the slide, where they partnered with a developer to design a custom solution. So thinking out of the box, but not letting go of the luxury part or the kind of collaboration it is done. So you'll see some other examples. For example, the Inspiration Gala in 2013, the Culture Show sponsorship in 2016, but maintaining the theme, maintaining the brand identity, making sure that even in this particular collateral, while the thing is small, but when we look at it from a marketing lens, you see the same logo, you see the same trunk design, you see the same handcrafted stitching. I think while these are small, but if you just take a step back, and most of us, or many of us, if even if somebody is carrying a Louis Vuitton bag maybe 200 meters down the road, you will spot it. That is the kind of uh, position the brand has been able to establish over a period of time, right? Let me do one thing. Let me again take a break. What I wanted to do, just take some quick examples of we talked about how the group, through its very unique acquisition strategy, and I'll just take it for 5 or 10 minutes, but make sure that I give you a perspective, and we can plan another session where we'll go into the acquisition strategy itself of how this thing has come along. But before that, let me just conclude on from a Louis Vuitton perspective. Let me look at there are, I think, Mahima, there I see a lot of okay, this
We have a lot of questions in the Q&A section, Varun.
okay, just give me 1 minute. Let me just skim through the question, and
Right.
then basically I'll try to answer them one by one. We can take a few questions. I think, Mahima, in parallel, what you can do, as we always do, like from a LinkedIn perspective, from the company handle and from my handle, people can reach out, and I'll be happy to answer it.
Right,
a
Varun, sure.
period of time where queries can be punched in. Now, there is a question that high ticket buyers, absolutely. So I think there's a question which I see where the question says that the strategy here is to market and target luxury segment. Absolutely. See, for any market, uh, you know strategy to work, the first step, as you would have read, is segmentation and targeting. So for a brand like Louis Vuitton, they are very crystal clear in terms of whom they want to target. It's high end customers, it's affluent customers. As I told you, I was reading the TG somewhere, $150,000 minimum income, uh, evolved customers. So that is clear. Mrityunjay, in terms of how do you derive willingness to pay? Now that's another big topic, because there are a lot of methods in the market. There are, see, two kinds of research. There is qualitative and there is quantitative. In quantitative research, there are a lot of methods. Like, for example, I will pick up 70 data points in one particular city, 6,000 sample set. There are very evolved methods where I don't want to go into the technicals, but there are methods like a max diff. There are where you are shown different cards, you are shown different combinations as in random samples, and you are asked which one will you pick and how much are you willing to pay. So those are separate exercises in itself. Also a lot of qualitative feedback. So over a period of time, how the brand has evolved and what the customer is willing to pay, so those also become you know um the input, right? Now, another question in terms of how do they select and hire employees? Of course, so there are two parts to it. In fact, if you go into the depth, even the artisans who are working on the ground are extremely experienced, so they do not shy away from paying exorbitant salaries, because they can actually, given the price of the bag, afford that. And it's like kind of a chicken and egg kind of a situation. Given that the price and the customer is willing to pay a very high price, they do not face that particular bottleneck. So they do not cut corners, they do not use machines, they do not hire cheap labor. In fact, if you start reading about it and go into the details, these are the kind of things they invest on, right? Now, I think, okay, so that answers some of the questions. Uh, there is another question about a TK Philip. Let me just run through some of the questions. And do you think LV will come up in the future? Is there any point of difference in branding? Why is the cost and why is it? Okay, got it. So I think, see, from a technology perspective, if I start looking at different, brands, uh, adoption of technology is must. I think there was a question that for a luxury brand like Louis Vuitton, what role will technology play, and AR, VR, etc., will come into play. So in 2018, LVMH as a group did a very historic partnership with Google in terms of doing a cloud partnership. And if you started researching about it, the idea was hyper personalization, database of customers, personalized offers, etc., etc. So in today's days and age, I think no brand can afford not to do the right technology tie-ups, not to leverage technology. However, as of today, if you talk about AR, VR, if you talk about augmented reality, if you talk about the stores, it is a in-person, a very personalized experience and not enabled by technology as of today. Now, nobody knows that over a period of time, this might need to evolve, this might need to shift. So yeah, I think that takes care of the question. Ronak, I think I'll just pause there and hand over to you. While there are certain acquisition examples which I had, but I think I would not do justice if I run through them in a very quick manner. What we will do is that we will plan another session, because there are some phenomenal examples, and if I just talk about one of them so that people get a sense, right? So diversification across luxury segments, how would you achieve that in terms of the product offering? So LVMH, for example, in 2011 acquired Bulgari, which is an Italian luxury brand for exotic jewelry. So similarly, 2018 acquisition of Belmont. So that was one strategic perspective where they wanted to increase the offering and diversify from, say, a retail or an apparel. That is one strategic aspect. If you look at exploiting niche markets, so another strategic thing is that where the competition is relatively lower, where the demand is high, where you can foresee the demand will continue to grow. They acquired a brand called MFK, which is mentioned on the slide, a very niche fragrance house in 2017, a growing market. They wanted to capitalize on the consumer demand. So the objective for a Bulgari versus an objective for an MFK was completely different. Let me take another example. So, how do you enhance your product offering within the existing brand? So, while a Bulgari got something like a, perfume and watches to the collection, but if, the objective was that how do you expand the current product offering? An acquisition of a brand in 2013 called Loro Piana, an Italian luxury Kashmiri and textile brand, right? So while they were already in textile and apparels and lifestyle products, acquiring another brand which took care of adding to the existing portfolio. And I'll just take one last example because I just wanted to give flavor of how acquisitions work and how acquisition strategy work. If you talk about innovative brand, uh, if you would have heard of Remova, which is a German luggage manufacturer, a typical suitcase of Remova would cost you around 80,000 to a lakh today. But they have a lifelong guarantee. The kind of rivets they use, the kind of metal they use, the kind of lightweight bag which is there, it is top of the class, cutting edge design and technology in the luggage market. So acquired this. So if you start looking at the basket of acquisitions, the reasons why it was done and the kind of companies which were acquired were very, very different. So, with that, I'll take a pause. I think we'll have another separate session where we talk about acquisition as a strategy. And what we will do is that we will take these particular case examples and make sure that we are running through them in detail. Once again, while Ronak takes over, let me thank each and every one of you who has taken out the time, has been patient. I hope the session was helpful. I'll be happy to connect with you. And over to you, Ronak. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Varun, for sharing this topic with us.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I think that this last 1 hour which we spent with Varun gave us a lot of wonderful insights with respect to the brand, with respect to the marketing strategies of the brand, how strategies evolved over a period of time. And I also casted a glance over the questions which we came across during this session. So yeah, definitely one thing which I think that as a learning which we can take from this particular webinar session is that, with changes in technologies, with changes in the customer, and with the changes how markets get evolved, the strategies also get changed. So my discussion today is with respect to strategy. What I'm going to talk about is about strategic management. And what I'll do is that, it is not a mandatory session for everybody. People who would want to, learn about how they can upskill themselves in the areas of strategic management, leadership, or in the areas of business essentials, they can be a part of the session, right? Where I'll speak about in-depth.
Ronak, we have a poll as well here in the session so that people who want to know about the program or who want to learn about strategic management, they could just take a quick poll whether they want to continue being in the webinar.
Sure. That is definitely great. Mahima, if you can just run a poll for the same.
Sure, I'm just running it right away.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you can see the poll on your screens. Ronak, can you see the poll?
Yeah, I can see the poll.
Right.
So yeah, we have got good responses from people with respect to understanding that, okay, what is strategic management and how that can help them in the present situation. So there are two ways to look at it. First, the kind of role where we are working today, irrespective of whatever industry we are coming in from. We might hail from varied industries background, like an IT, like an automotive background, like, for example, working in even startups, new age startups, right? Whatever could be the industry, be it a BFSI or anything. It is immaterial with respect to the industry which I'm speaking about. It is with respect to the kind of job role we are at. So if, for example, you are into leading teams, for example, if you are an entrepreneur, or for example, if you are somebody who is going to take strategic initiatives with respect to the business transformation. For that, this is a fruitful discussion which I'm going to have right now. And I'll start with presenting my screen, and you can just confirm once my screen is visible, right? Just give me a second. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. So what I'm talking about right now is NCR. So maybe most of you would be acquainted with the name, right? NCR was founded in the year 1957, right? It is also known as the business school for the world. The reason being that if we just look at the rankings, and not any private rankings, I'm talking about the QS World Rankings, right? For the European MBA as well as the global MBA we talk about. So NCR holds a very great position with respect to that. The ranking comes between rank 1 to rank 5, when we check the statistics year on year. And to give you statistics, when we talk about NCR, NCR has also produced second most CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies in the world, which is right after the Harvard Business School. So yeah, when it comes to the diversity, there are people coming in from 55 plus nations. And when we talk about such kind of a diversity, it definitely creates a long-lasting networking impact for the people in the mind. Now, NCR has its campus, as can be depicted in the screen over here, is that they have campus in France, they have campus in Singapore, Middle East, which is Abu Dhabi, as well as in San Francisco, right? So what is there with Hero Wired and NCR is a program which is known as Strategic Management and Business Essentials. This program is basically meant for three kind of profile, as I'm reiterating once again: people who are entrepreneurs, right? Number two, people who are leading teams, right? And number three, people who are taking strategic initiatives in the business transformation, right? So what are the kind of modules which will get covered? What are the kind of job outcomes which you can expect out of it? What are the kind of career transition which you can expect out of it? Before I dwell into the same, what I want to talk about is how NCR can really make a difference. Because today, if we look at the B schools in the world, you may or may not be, have been a part of the B school, be it in India or be it abroad. When we talk about the B schools in our country, we talk about the ISBs and we talk about the IIMs. But if you just can put it in the chat box, what clarity do you have with respect to the rankings of the ISBs and the ISB and the IIMs across globally? The rankings is even beyond 50. Now, when we talk about a quality education, which is with respect to global level of education in management, in leadership, then there comes NCR, right? And now, you guys can spend time right after the session researching about NCR in your own way, right? But while you would do that, I would like to talk about strategic management. What is that and how is it important in today's world, right? So when I say that, particularly I know that you guys are hailing it from different industry groups. So while I'll be taking this conversation, it will be really great if you can take me through what kind of an industry you are coming in from, right? You can just post it in the chat box simultaneously and it will give me a clarity. Thank you. So now coming into the program, see, this program, as I stated, this program is particularly for three kind of an audience. Now, when we look at the median, which is the experience range of the people, it is approximately 12 years, right? Where people are coming in from varied backgrounds. However, the pie, if you look at, it is having a major chunk of people between 10 to 15 years of an experience, right? And there are people coming in from varied industries and, looking for multiple outcome. I'll straight away come to the point of the faculties. This is a program which is a 6 months duration program, which is going to be delivered online, right? We have had multiple batches in the past. Hero Wired acts as a learn tech partner for NCR in this case, right? Over the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, there are live classes which are held for this program, where the classes are taken by two entities. One, which is the faculties coming in from the NCR campus, right? They'll be delivering it live. The second, which are the industry experts and the faculties from the Hero Wired's end, right? Now, when we talk about the same, there are classifications. If I want to talk about the NCR faculty, right? You see that on the screen, you would see some names over here. There is Professor Thomas, there is Professor Andrew. If you can see that these are the faculties and they are subject matter experts into their own fields. For example, I talk about a topic known as the Blue Ocean Strategy. Some of you might have even heard about it, and some of you might even want to know about what is a Blue Ocean Strategy, right? And then there are areas like a design thinking or thought leadership or about innovation, creativity, mergers and acquisitions. On these areas, each of these faculties are the experts who teach at the Fontainebleau campus, which is located in France, right? And these are the same faculties who deliver the lectures live in this classes, right? In this particular program. Now, these are certain faculties. If you just look at their credentials, it is already mentioned over here. Just coming down about the industry experts, if I talk about, so there is Mr. Shiva, right, who's having more than 1.5 decade of an experience. He has also worked with Barclays, right, as in into the investment background, right. There are multiple other eminent personalities also over here, right, and who are having background from good B schools across India and across the world. If you look at over here, right. Coming to what you would be learning in this particular program, before I go into the same, I'll just give you a short synopsis on how the program would be. It's structured into 6 months, right? Where one would need to have a 4 to 6 hours of a minimum dedications in a live session and a total weekly commitment of 8 to 10 hours in total. Now, this combination particularly is an amalgamation of live classes with group assignments, with case studies, with business simulations, and combining all this is what your assessment happens with NCR, right? So the hands-on live teaching experience and master classes is 50 plus hours, right? 24 hours of a live teaching comes in from NCR and 24 hours of a live teaching comes in from Hero Wired, right? Plus, if I talk about the module distribution over here, it is divided into two ways, because we know that for a matter of fact, you would have done your graduation or your post-graduation, let's say a decade back. And it's been a good amount of time that going back again to the formal education is something where you would take time to get the adaptability again. So to understand that, the way it is structured, the course is not at all theoretical. The course is designed in such a fashion that people who have done these courses in the past, if you take their feedback, these are also available on the YouTube channel of Hero Wired. Also, if you can just go to the YouTube channel of Hero Wired, you'll find the testimonials from the learners who have completed this program with NCR and Hero Wired. The program is completely aimed at the industry requirement, making people industry ready on what is needed in today's world. Like, for example, if we talk about the webinar which we attended today, where we saw how the marketing strategies got evolved with the evolution in the overall space, right? The reason being that if you look at the modules today, these are really different from what the institutions used to teach years back. So for example, if I talk about the industry module segment over here, there are some modules which are really helpful for everybody, irrespective of whichever industry you're coming in from. As I mentioned, for the three kind of an audience, right? Where we talk about marketing, we talk about foundations of strategy, we talk about how do you lead teams. And sometimes it is also important, if you look at over here, it is also important that, let's say, for example, you are somebody who is, into, let's say, supply chain and logistics. You may or may not have a direct impact with the vendors, because vendors would not be reporting into you. They are not your team members, but you have a day-to-day work which you need to get it done from them. For example, I'm just taking that as an example. There are multiple examples which can be quoted over here. So yeah, influencing without authority, if I talk about, is where you would want to get the art of persuasion, which is the art of work getting done from somebody who's not a part of your team. That is something which is an art which will be taught by the NCR faculty, as it's mentioned over here, which is the core NCR module. Another part is design thinking, because as we see a lot of startups, unicorns, unicorns, we hear about them, right? They come up with idea. Ideally, when we talk about startup, it is basically meant for twofold purpose. Either you solve the actual need which is there in the market with the innovative idea, or number two, you bring out a latent need which was not at all visible at this point in time by most of the people out there, right? So the design thinking, when we talk about there are certain strategies by which people would solve the challenges, the business case challenges. And then when we come about entrepreneurial thinking, being an entrepreneur, a lot of people think that, okay, it is only about when you start your own venture. However, it is not that. Even when at your company, your workplace, wherever you're working at today, you need to have a thinking as an entrepreneur so that you can grow collaboratively, right? This is where which is being taught in the core insight model. Just, the proof of the pudding is that I just repeat the same statement, that if you look at the top startups in the Europe, you would just do this research right after this webinar gets over. You would find the INSEAD's name over there in terms of the alumni who have been there from Europe, right, which is the France campus out there. And also to add to it, yes, as I repeat it again, that there, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, the second most CEOs comes from there. And right after Harvard, you look at the HNIs, right? Ultra HNI, if you look at over there, these are also the people in Europe which are coming in from NCR, right? Giving the clarity on these areas, and I'll just quickly go through, the other parts of the, program aspects as well. The areas like a branding and a marketing, it's being covered over here. The areas, for example, on finance, it's being covered over here. Operation supply chain, it's being covered over here. Leading teams and organizations, foundational strategies being covered, personal leadership is being covered. There is one very interesting fact which is usually not covered in the programs offered by the Indian institutions. And if I talk about that, this program comes with business simulation, which gives you an opportunity to apply what you have learned in a live case, right? For example, there is an exchange simulation which comes in this program, right? And the detailed of which can be given in the later part of it, when you would be connecting or maybe eager to connect with one of our team members to know more into the details of the program. Right now, giving a very brief synopsis of the program details and how it can actually help you. So one important part is about pitching and networking sessions, irrespective of whether you are having your own venture today, or you are leading a team today, or you would be leading team sometime later. You would need to know how do you pitch and how do you develop your network. And the part, if you look at this is something very interesting which I want to show you. I'm just zooming it in if this is visible. You look at the kind of profile which came in for this program. There are people, if you would see, completely in correlation with what I was saying, the kind of background which these people are coming in from. You look at CEO, COO, senior manager, senior associate partners, and then the industries, if you look at excuse me, is like there's technology, there's engineering, there's operations, there's finance. People are coming from various backgrounds and well-reputed organizations who have joined this program, right? And then, as you see, there are entrepreneurs as well. The other batch, the batch 3, if I would just want to portray over here, you would see the same thing, right? There are managing partners, there are AVP, directors, heads, VPs, right? And if I talk about the industries over here, the domains over here, it involves as wide as an EV and renewable energy to, a healthcare and e-com, a BFSI sector, real estate sector, and, an IT sector too. Right. So to give you clarity on that, this program is specifically not meant or designed for people hailing from a specific industry. However, it is meant to cater need of people who are coming in from the right background, but having one of these three as their key aspects. One, whether you are an entrepreneur or you want to become an entrepreneur. Number two, whether you are leading teams, no matter what is the size of your team today, but you are into leading teams, right? And the third part, if I want to talk about, is that when you would want to take business strategic initiatives. That is what the program, I was talking about. So yeah, these are the synopsis of what kind of modules you would be going through. To get you through in this, there are various ways you would learn into it. The one way is that, okay, you would just learn theory, but that is not what you can actually get the results which you are seeking. To get the real results on ground, you would not only have to learn from the best of the faculties from the globe, which is like NCR, which is ranked 2, but also from people who are from the industry. Just to give you an example, if you would look over here, I'm talking about Mr. Satyam Arora, right? And he is presently heading the strategic alliances and partnerships with Philips, which is a well-renowned brand, and Philips in Netherlands, Amsterdam. So he takes care of areas like mergers and acquisitions and some part of finance in this program. So there are various people which are subject matter experts in terms of the faculty as well as in terms of the industry where they are hailing in from. And this gives a complete clarity on why this program comes in, important. The other part is, which I just want to talk about, is that for people who would also want to go to France, where in Fontainebleau, you want to visit the campus, there's an immersion program also available in this program, where if you would want to go to the France campus, there is an immersion which happens in the month of October. However, there are certain criteria for the qualification of the same, right? You get an immense network building opportunities, not just from people hailing from India, but from people across the globe. And, I am telling it with full confidence and faith that NCR as a, campus, the Fontainebleau campus, has the highest diversity in terms of nationalities of people coming in for the program. If you can just do a bit of a research to understand, if you would can just do a bit of research to understand how this program actually helps people from varied industry backgrounds, it is the point where you would know that when people learn from people across the globe, learning from their ideas, and that is where the group projects, the business simulation comes into the picture, right? And yeah, I mean, if that is, I'll just take a pause for this moment, and I will pick up a few questions which I have it in the chat box, right? Uh, a lot of people mentioned about their industries, which is IT, media, textile, pharma, wire and cable. I think that you guys also, had seen when I depicted that what are the kind of people who enrolled in this program in the past and how they got it. Okay. So far with respect to program, I have not got any question. It is only with respect to the industries which you have mentioned. Any particular question with respect to program, please post it in the chat box. However, our team members, will get in touch with you if you would need a detailed clarity with respect to how this program can actually help. The other part to it is that for people who are hailing in from product-based startups or product-based industries, NCR, also has another program with Hero Wired, which is an executive program in product management, which is in a collaboration with NCR, right? So that executive program in product management usually talk about the areas of product management, how you become a product manager, or if you're already a product manager, how you can hone your skills better. So yeah, NCR has two programs which is in collaboration with Hero Wide, and that gives a detailed clarity. If there is any question, please post it in the chat box. Mahima? Yeah, Mahima, are you there?
Yes, Ronak. So we don't have any questions as of now. If you can refer to a Q&A section, Ronak, just see if you wish to answer any of the questions there.
There's one question which I've got. What is the status of the people who have completed the program? What is that they have achieved and how they have transitioned their career? So Mahima, if you can also help in the chat box with the YouTube page of Hero Wide, the link of the same.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah, so please do that. So yeah, whoever has asked this question, it's an anonymous attendee, but yeah, I'll give the answer. People, as you see, and I'll just, again, if you would want to see, I'll present my screen once again so that you get a clarity. Just give me a second. And I'll present my screen so that you get a clarity on, the question which you asked. So you see the batches. First of all, the kind of profile which these people have who joined this program in the past. So my screen is visible, right? Right. My screen is visible.
Hello? Ronak, am I audible to you?
Yeah, you're audible too. My screen is visible.
Yeah, your screen is visible.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, people who join this program, you see, first of all, as I am, giving a complete clarity once again, it's not meant for people who are not hailing from these three backgrounds. One, if you're not an entrepreneur. Two, if you're not into leading teams. Three, if you're not into direct, participation of making business initiatives, strategic initiatives, business transformations. Only for these three cases, people have joined. 90% of the profile, you see that they are coming in from there itself. Right? This, if you just talk about the three batches, right? There have been successive batches coming in. The batch sizes are limited. This is a limitation which has been there from NCR itself as a campus. And, just to give a clarity on why there's a limitation in the batch number, if you just look at the criteria to get into NCR's management program, even for a 1-year management program, if we talk about, it's so difficult that people spend years and years just to prepare for the same, right? And that is why it is ranked into the top 3 business schools in the world, right? And that is how they have, widespread, presence over the globe in terms of the 4 different campuses located at different regions and continents. So yeah, Mahima has posted the YouTube channel link of Hero Wired. Under this, if you would just go into the testimonial section, you would find video testimonials of learners with their actual names and their profile, who joined this program, who completed this program, what kind of benefit have they got, what kind of transition have they got, what kind of upliftment have they got in terms of their skill sets, in terms of the quantified parameters which you can measure in their career, is what it is there. And also to give a clarity that, in terms of the application for this, today is 25th, right? The applications are closing in another 3 days only for the program, because the batches are going to start really soon. So yeah, for further details, obviously the team members will be connecting back to you. Obviously, if you would have any questions or any clarity, you can easily go to the Hero Wired's website. There is a chat section over there. You can drop in your details, or you can just pick up the phone or maybe dial at the toll-free number at the Hero Wired's website too. All right. So I think, Mahima, that's all from my end. It was a wonderful evening, right? A Thursday wonderful evening on the insights which was shared by Varun, and a great audience, right? Mahima,
thank you so much, Ronak, for throwing insights onto the program and sharing all the details about it. I hope we were able to help a lot of people here who were looking for the information that we've just shared. Thank you everyone for being a lovely audience today, and we will be coming right back with an exciting webinar. Also, in case your questions are being missed today, our team will be reaching out to you in order to answer all your queries personally, and we'll be ensuring that all your questions and your queries have been resolved. And we will be right back with an exciting webinar yet again. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the webinar today. Good evening.